When you first start in a new world, you'll see a couple of things on the beach here. These are glass bottles, and this is a barrel, and you want to keep your eye out for those. And with a glass bottle, you just run over it just like that. If we press 1 to equip our knife and run up to the barrel, we can just left click on it a couple of times and we'll hit it until we destroy it. You can see that we've got some salvage metal. So whenever you see barrels and glass, you want to go ahead and pick them up, and you'll typically see them along the beach. So we can see just down here, we've got another one. Let's go and destroy that. It's not too far out in the water, so we can get to it. And yep, there we go. So if it's far out in the water, there's another way of getting to it, which I'll come on to later when we go into sailing. Now, the beginner quests in the top right are a good starting point, but there's a couple things they don't tell you that makes things a bit easier. So if we press 2 to equip our axe, we're going to chop down this tree, but trees will fall in the direction that you're looking. So if you get it right, you can knock one tree into another, and it will knock that other tree down, and you actually get double the wood for your effort. So we get about here, and you're not going to get it right every time, but you can give it a go. Now, as I'm left clicking, you'll see this circle appears on screen. And while that circle's there, that's when you want to left click to hit once again, because you'll do more damage then with the critical hit. And there we go. We managed to knock both of those trees, and everything falls down. So we get double the wood from the effort that we put in. Now, if we press M, we'll look at our mini map here, and you can scroll out and scroll in. And when you start to explore the world more, you'll see a lot more stuff. But I wanted to mention something. So if we're facing like this, so our character and our screen is both facing the same way. So we press M, and you can see that we're looking out to sea. However, if I hold right click down to swivel around this way, so I'm actually looking at my character, when I press M now, you'll see that we're looking in the complete opposite direction. So when you use M, the arrow, the way it's pointing, is actually the position that your camera's facing, not your character. So this can be useful because later on there'll be some waypoints on the map you have to head for. And so what you need to do is just line your camera up with the waypoint and then walk in that direction, and you'll know you're going the right way. So this is where we start, and this is our starting town up here. And there's all kinds of things to look at here. And first of all, we're going to look at the different traders. And probably the most important one early game is this dude here, which is the blacksmith. So over here, we can buy our first armor set, but we do need gold coins and tan leather to do that. And I'll come on to how we get this later on. But we can buy there basically a chest plate and also a helmet, and that will add a significant amount of early game armor versus the nothing that we start with. On top of that, we have these barrels. So if you left click them, you'll see here salvage metal. So 5 salvage metal, you can buy it for 15 gold, or you can sell it for 3 gold. We also have coal, and over here we have stone, and we also have wood. So all of this stuff is a way of early game either buying materials if you're short on something, or actually making some money by selling these materials in the first place. And that's one of the early game ways that we're going to get money in order to buy things like, for example, the armor we saw here. Now, we also have this hunting merchant here where you can buy a bow, and it's 30 gold coins to do so. Personally, I don't find the bow super useful early game. I think there's better ways of spending that 30 gold coins, but it is an option if you want to. You also have the bait box, which we'll come on to later on. And then over here, we have raw hides, which again, we can buy or sell. And then we got this sort of farming merchant over here. So here we can buy and sell blueberries, marigolds, and roses, as you see there. On top of that, we have a farmer's hat that we can buy. This is quite an expensive item, as you see, but it is quite useful, and we'll see that later on. And there's also a farmer's bandana, which is a lot cheaper and gives you an extra chance of getting seeds when you're harvesting. Now, farming is very useful early game, so we're going to have a look at this. And one thing to bear in mind as well, you'll see that you actually get a little bit of blocking armor as well from wearing the farmer's bandana and also the farmer's hat. So it's better than nothing, like if you have that, and you'll be able to equip it with some other things. Again, we're going to look at all of that later on. Now, when you're running around and exploring, if you hold down right click and move your mouse down, you'll see like this, we can actually see a much better view. So this is the default view, and you can't see, too far in front of you. But by doing that, you'll be able to see things which are much further away. So this can make things really easy if you're looking for a certain resource, like, for example, the blueberries up here. Now, the blueberries, your best bet is to have your knife ready early game. So that's number 1 by default. And you can see here, you can harvest it really quickly using that. Whereas if we use something like an axe or harvest these reeds, it's the same harvest speed. You can see there it is much slower. So by using the right materials, you can actually drastically speed up how quickly you're able to get some of the early game materials that you're going to need. Another thing that can be a little confusing is the direction of your attacks. So for example, if my character's facing over to the right here, if I left click over this way, you'll see he turns and hits there. So it's going to attack wherever your mouse is looking, and that's important to remember, especially when you're in combat. So when you have all of the first resources from the initial tutorial quest, if we press tab, we can open up our build menu, and it gives you a bit of information when you first do this, as you'll see on screen now. So then if we click this hammer tool up here, you'll see we can build a variety of things, and the first thing you're going to need to build is a foundation. and it tells you again about building your first home. But we can rotate things around here using the middle mouse button to get it wherever we want. Now, I recommend that this is a good location around here when you first build your town, your house, I should say, because you're very close to this starter town, which you're going to be using quite a lot. You're also pretty close to water, and that's going to be important in a moment when we start farming. And also it's useful for exploration because we can get in our boat and head off. It's important to remember that your first house on this game is probably not going to be your late game big build if you like doing big buildings and stuff like that, and you're worried there's not much space here. Don't worry about that just yet. All you need is some basics so you can do some crafting and sleep through the night. So we're going to place down a 2x2. I find that's plenty for an early game house. Then I'm going to put down a couple of doors to show you guys something, because I recommend you build these stairs just like this. Now, the reason I say that is because with the stairs, we can nice and easily run through the door to get in and out. If you don't have them, it's just a little bit finicky getting through. Like, you can still do it, but I don't know. I just find it's a bit of a quality of life thing. Also, if you do place something down like this door that we no longer need, when you press F, you can just left click on that and click here to recycle it, and then you'll get all of your items back again. Now, because we did find some glass on the beach, we can actually build a window, so we can put one of those in there. And looks like we've got enough to build a second one, so let's put a window there as well. And then the rest of these, I'm just going to place down these like this. And once again, we can right click to scroll around here to get different viewpoints and stuff. So you can get like this. Yeah, there we go. And place down your house. And the final thing you're going to want to build is going to be a roof. Now, it doesn't specifically tell you this, but you actually need to get clay in order to get a roof. So let's equip our pickaxe and come over to a clay pile like this one right here. Now, the good thing about clay is it's a useful early resource to get because you do have a chance of getting sapphires from it. It's a slim chance, but when you do, these sapphires are quite valuable items for later on in the game. You see, that time we just got clay. As I say, it's pretty unlikely because it's a rare drop. Now, if we run along the beach here a bit, we can grab another glass bottle, and you see there's barrels and stuff like that, and there's plenty of resources around the coastline. The reason I mention this is because some of the early game builds have glass as one of the resources that you need, and I think they look quite nice, so I like to go and get them. And we're going to build the first one I'm talking about right now, which is this wooden roof right here. It has a window in it, and I think that looks quite nice, but it requires clay as well as glass. So yeah, that's just a way you can get that if you want to make your beginner house look a little bit nicer than just a default kind of house. Or we need a bit more clay, but then we'll finish that roof off. And this is where using the right click and dragging down can be really helpful. So if we drag down like that, there is some clay I can see through the trees there. Let me hold that steady. I'll zoom in now when I'm editing so you guys can see that. But yeah, I could never see it from this view up here, so that's why it's so handy. And when you are running, if you want to speed up your journey, just shift when you can. You'll see it's on a cooldown down at the bottom of the screen right there. But whenever you can, if you just use shift to travel along, you go a little bit faster than just running at the normal speed. So let's finish off our roof just like this. And that is the house essentially built. So when we open up this quest here, it will then recognize that we've done that. And at this point, you want to make your house a home, as it says there. So let's head inside and look at how we do that. Now, the first and most important thing that we're going to need to build is under this section here, and it is a bed. So the bed is really important. And I just want to say, you see this is an arrow in the game. It doesn't really matter. You don't necessarily need access to the arrow. So if I place it like this, we don't really have access to that arrow. And I'll place the bed right in the corner there under the window. But now if we come over here, you'll see that we can still set the bed and sleep in this bed. So don't worry too much about the arrows for most items in this game. Now, you always want to build the bed first, because if it's getting late in the day, you can then sleep through the night when you get mobs and things like that, and make it daytime again. But also now on our map, we actually have a little bed. And let me run away so I can actually show you that. So there you go. You see right there, that's our bed on the map. And so it's nice and easy to find our way back to the home. Of course, because we're living near the town, we got the town icon anyway we could use. But if you do choose to build your house somewhere else, then you'll know how to get back to it. So once you've slept through your first night, the tutorial quests tell you about you're going to go and enter the mines. Now, before you do any mining, what I recommend is you take with you a lot of wood and also reeds. So we know how to get wood from the trees, and we can use our little trick there to try and knock down 2 at a time. Reeds we just get from here, right? So we see there we're picking up these different reeds. And if you go to our resources here, they're actually called fibers. I call them reeds. So we can hold 50 of each. So I recommend you take 50 wood and 50 fibers with you. Now, the reason for that will become apparent once we get into the caves. Let me just stock up on those things, and then I'll show you why we're doing this. So now that our inventory is full of wood and also fibers, and we also have a good amount of blueberries on us, we're ready to head into the caves. So once you're in the caves, it's a good idea to press 4 and equip your torch thing that you have down here, your adventurer's torch, because that can be equipped with any weapon. So there's no downside to doing so, and it makes it a bit easier to see. Another good thing is to make sure at this point that we eat all of our food. So from this right here, we can middle mouse button to eat food just like this and fill up like that. However, another thing you can do is drag this down to your hotbar. So right now, if we press number 5, we can very quickly eat blueberries if we need to do so when we're in combat. So it's a good idea to do this. Now, having a full hunger bar like this means that we'll regenerate health much faster if we do get into trouble. And there are certain mobs and things you can see down here, and things can go wrong. So it's a good idea to do that. Another thing to mention is the minimap works in the caves as well. So using this arrow here, we can actually cycle between the overworld and underworld. Now, at the moment, obviously, we've just gone in, but this does come in handy later on. And the reason for that is because sometimes on the cave, when you go to the overworld, you can see that you've actually traveled from here, like way over to another island. So then you can come out of a different entrance or exit marked as these little cave icons here, and basically travel underground to other islands and things like that. On top of that, you can also make little markers on the minimap by left clicking. And if you keep left clicking, you can cycle through a range of them. If you want to get rid of them, you just right click and they'll go away. Of course, this does work on the overworld map as well. Now, when you're exploring the caves, you will find lots of different cave entrances, and they all have the same marker. So you may want to just put a little marker above the cave entrance that you come in if you want to make sure that you go back out the same entrance. You don't have to go out the same entrance. If you go out a different one, you'll just be up on land in like a different place, and then you can run back across land to get there. But it can sometimes be helpful to have like a little marker like that. So now that we're in the caves, we're going to be exploring and looking for iron. There are some other things we can find though that's useful. Like, for example, these mushrooms right here. So let's go ahead and pick those up. And if we go to our food tab, you'll see right there that they do 1.5 hunger filled, which is the same amount as the blueberries. Neither one of these gives us any heal amount. However, they are still a useful food to have early game. Plus, they are useful later on because they're used in some later game recipes. So while you're here, you might as well grab them. Now, the useful resources you'll find in the cave are coal, and that's marked like this here, kind of a blackish sort of ore with the rocks right there. And the other thing that you want is the iron. So we'll look at iron in a second when we find it, but I'm just going to go ahead and mine this coal first. So sometimes in the caves, you'll come across a structure like this. And if we hover over this bridge and left click it, you'll see that we can repair it using wood and fibers. And so now you know why we've brought that. And there's a mob coming, so I'm just getting out of the way here a bit, but that's why we brought that stuff. Now, these mobs here aren't too bad. Their attacks are kind of slow, as you can see. You can kind of like time them. And if you're using the shift, you can just jump out the way. In terms of attacking them, be sure to use your critical hits. And because you keep sort of chaining those attacks, they get a bit staggered and do almost no damage to you. So don't worry too much about those guys when you see them. Unless there's like 20 of them, then you should be fine. Okay, so over here is the iron. So the iron in this game is kind of a grayish sort of color. When you're further away, it does kind of sparkle a bit with this torch lit. I think especially you can kind of see the sparkling there. So that's how I sort of keep an eye out for it. And of course, that's what we're here for. So we definitely want to get ourselves a good amount of this whilst we're in the caves. Now, from that one iron resource deposit, we got ourselves the 3 shards. So this quest now, like that bit's ticked off. However, while you're here, I recommend you fill your backpack with iron and coal. You're going to need a lot of both later on throughout the game. So it's more efficient to just get it all whilst you're here now, rather than like keep coming back every time. But that's just a personal preference thing. Now, you may also come across a structure that looks like this, and when we're hovering over it, there's no option to repair it. The way you get across this is if you jump and then press shift when in midair, you see you jump much further. So from here, I jump to like there. When I jump like that, I get a much bigger distance. So that's how you get across these sorts of areas, just like this. And also sometimes you'll find these little islands that you see right here. They will be close enough to another little island that you can actually do that between them. So whilst these points here make it somewhat obvious that you can do it, sometimes as well you just need to look out for that. Now, these are some other mobs that you can see in the caves. They're not anything to worry about, even though there's like half a dozen of them here. They are just a bit of an early game nuisance rather than something that's likely to kill you. There would have to be, I don't know, quite a lot of them. So basically, just don't worry about them. Just make sure you're getting your crit hits in and you'll be completely fine. And on other occasions, you may need to do a little bit of parkour like you see here, and you can jump yourself up to get up to other locations. So yeah, the game is nice like that. Sometimes you have to figure things out a little bit, and you can get to places that you previously thought perhaps you couldn't. Now, if you do bump into something like this on your travels, it's worth activating it because it's something you're going to have to do later on anyway, and there's no real downside of doing that. In fact, as you see right there, we do get some XP from it. And that put me up to level 1, which you can see at the bottom of the screen there. That little blue bar is your skill levels. And if we press C, we actually get to go to a skill tree. Now, when you first left click, it actually tells you exactly what you're getting here. So for example, if we could take this skilled explorer, we get the 10% base damage increase plus a 50% chance to double fish and meat collected, so that's pretty cool. And then you can look at all the other ones as well. Now, personally, I like to unlock this one, the skilled assassin, but you need to think about the route you want to play, because what you'll notice is right now we have these 4 options. As soon as I select this one and unlock it, like there we go, so now everything is gone and I have to build my way back over to these things. So I'm as far away as I can be from this one up here, which was the skilled farmer one, I have to get 1, 2, 3, and then 4 points just to get to it. But there's other things we can do down here. So this is again personal preference, just figure out how you want to play, but be careful which direction you choose. When you've done a little bit of mining, even if you're just mining the coal and iron, you will get a fair bit of stone built up as well. You see here we got 42. So what we can do now is if we go into the building section and we go down here and we select stone building just like this, we can build stone foundations and we can build these in the cave. So I could build one there and another one there. Now what this does is I'd never be able to make that jump, but by now building like this, we can jump across to the next island. So this is another way you can get between islands and get to areas that you don't think you can whilst you're out caving. Now, if you do encounter these slime things early on in the game, again, don't worry about them too much. They're not really going to do much damage to you. As you see right here, we didn't get much damage done to us by fighting that one. Now, you wouldn't want to fight too many of them all at one go, but by doing that, one at a time like that, if you get like an area like this, you can actually kill them without too much trouble. That being said though, the slime drops are not super useful early game, and so you don't necessarily want to go out of your way to kill these things, but it's just if you do encounter an area like this, you can look at it. Now again, using right click here, I can see I definitely don't want to head up that way, because all of those mobs up there with me at this stage of the game would mean certain death. It's worth mentioning as well, if you do fall off a cliff, and I'm mentioning this because I literally just did, then here's what happens, right? So you actually just take a little bit of damage and you're good to go again. So as long as you've got a decent amount of health on you, falling off a cliff is not really too big of a deal, not something you need to fear too much. So just to complete this little quest line, when you build your anvil, you're going to want to build that inside, or at least on a foundation. So place that one there, for example. And when we click on it, if we want to upgrade our knife, all we have to do is drag that up to here. And there we go, there's the sword. As long as you have the requirements on you, which of course we do, now we can go ahead and upgrade this to complete the quest and get ourselves a much better weapon. Now, when we equip our sword, you'll notice down at the bottom here, something new has appeared. So if I press that E button, you'll see right there, we do a special attack, and this can be utilized in several different ways. Now, it's important to note once again, if our character is facing over here, but my mouse is over here, the special attack is in the direction that your mouse is. So you want to hover your mouse over whatever it is you're trying to attack and do it that way. Now, I said earlier that I don't think you necessarily need to buy a bow early game. So I'm going to find some deer right now and also some rabbits and show you exactly why that is. So what I'm about to show you will only work once you've got the special ability, because we're going to use it to kill this deer here. So what we need to do is run up and get close to it and then use our special ability, and we can get an attack in, and then we're going to run after it again using shift, and every time the special ability is available, we use it once more. Now, I'll be honest, I've done this a fair bit, so I probably made that look a little bit easier than you'll find on your first time, but with a bit of practice, it's honestly not too hard. And to keep making arrows can be a bit costly and difficult early on in the game, so I prefer to do it this way. When you are out exploring, make sure that you take everything you can with you, so fill up all of your fibers until they are at 50. If you find blueberries, attack those. You might have seen there briefly down in the bottom right, I did get myself some blueberry seeds as well by doing this, and this is one of the reasons we want to attack every plant that we see, because getting seeds is really useful early on in the game. And of course, whenever you're around these beachy areas, be on the lookout for these things here, these glass bottles, because it's the best way that you're going to get glass early on in the game. So you want to utilize those whenever you get the opportunity. Now, these here are roses that I'm picking up, so we want to make sure we pick up all of those, and that's great. We actually got ourselves some rose seeds, so it's even better now. We'll be able to grow our own. They sell for a reasonable amount early game, so yeah, something that's not too bad. Now, once you're full of fibers, like I am here, obviously you don't need to keep chopping them down. If you fill up with blueberries or roses or whatever else, then you don't keep chopping them down. But it is a good idea to make the most and fill up that inventory. Now, from this town that we're at right here, where we built our house, if you do want to get into making arrows early game, what you're going to do is head this way to that island just there. So if we run just down here a bit, we get pretty close to it on this island. And over on this island we're heading to, you're going to see some chickens. Now, you don't want to kill the chickens. I mean, you can, and you'll get some resources from them. But you see right here, that is a feather on the floor. That's one of the ingredients for making up the arrows. So we just walk over it and pick that up. Also, let's have a little run around. So here's the chicken just here, and you could kill it. But as I say, I don't recommend that. Over here, there is, let's actually have a glass bottle. But you'll find more feathers throughout the island by exploring it. And we're also going to find some eggs, and I'll show you one of those when we find it. Yeah, okay, so here is an egg. So we can just run over that to pick the egg up. So by leaving the chickens rather than killing them, we can just come here every now and again and keep collecting eggs and feathers that have fallen off them or that they've laid in the time that we've been waiting. And if you do venture over to this island, you can parkour up this little area right here, and whilst you're over here, you can go ahead and activate this. So this is going to be for a quest later on anyway, so you might as well do it now. So with all that exploring and gathering things up, you're probably going to need a bit of storage at this point. So if we go into this section here, you see we can make a storage box just using a bit of wood and some reeds. So if we place down a storage box here somewhere, let's just put one in like that. All we have to do is go ahead and left click it to open it up, And then you can put whatever you want in there. So you can just double left click to put things across very quickly, and you can store all your bulk items in this way. Now, personally, I like to make up a couple of chests and use them for different things, just so my storage right from the start is somewhat organized. So I might have this one as like my farming storage later on and things like that. Now, you notice here that you have the rose seeds. So we've got 5 of those, and we can grow some more roses, which we're going to do in a second. We've also got the 20 roses, and it's similar for the marigolds and later with lavender as well. This is obviously different to the seeds that you get for them. So once you have some seeds, there's really no downside in actually going to sell these things and get a little bit of money from it. So if we come up to the market right here and we click on these roses, for example, we can sell 5 roses for 5, and we can do that, let's see, 4 times. There we go. We now have a total, if we press tab, of 25 gold, and 20 of that was from doing all this selling. Now, I said one of the good early game items is this, for example, which is 40. So you can see actually you can get up to this fairly quickly. And even some of the more expensive stuff, like if we come and look at the armor over here, we just need 60 for that one, or even just 45 for that one. This stuff is actually achievable early game when we get into doing a bit of farming, or even just by exploring. And let's see, we've got some of these we can sell as well, which you haven't even done yet. So we're now up to 35. Just from having a little walk around the island and collecting a few things. Now, a good way to get some more money is to go ahead and unlock the first dungeon on Bridgewater Island. And this is something that I personally don't think you need any of the early game armor for. So it's like you can just go ahead and do that and complete the dungeon. And we're going to take a look at that in a second. So here is the dungeon down here. We're going to head to that on the map and complete this quest, so we unlock that. So having just unlocked this dungeon, I'm going to go and attempt it right now. And you know, I don't think it's too difficult to do at this stage, but if you do want to unlock some of that armor and buy that first, then there are ways you can do that, which we'll look at later on in the video if you want to skip ahead to that and then come back. So in terms of heading into the dungeon, again, make sure you have your torch equipped and of course your weapon. So we got our sword down here. And as well as that, make sure that you've got a full hunger bar and plenty of food on you. So I like to put it in the hot bar so we can eat it nice and quick. I have all of that food and I have some spare food as well. Now, using the right click trick, we can kind of look ahead and see what's going on and even look around us to see if there's any like enemies or anything useful we want to go and collect. So just over here, there are actually some boxes and I'll show you what we can do with that. In fact, there's some money on the table here, so we'll grab that first. These boxes here, you can just run into them like this to break them, and sometimes you do get things out of them. So here's our first enemy. Once again, make sure you're looking the right way and go ahead and use your special ability on them. And at that point, I think being offensive in this game seems to work better, at least it does for me, where you just kind of spam hit them and then they can't really get much damage done on you when you're in just like a 1v1 situation like that. And even with multiple mobs, I do find it's better to do that rather than trying to block. At this stage, obviously we don't have the shield, but we'll come on to that in a minute. Now, I've stopped here because this is a spawner, so you always want to make sure you go after the spawner first, because that will obviously stop anything else from spawning once it's been destroyed. But also, you are damaging the mobs that are nearby to the spawner at the same time, so it's definitely the best way to go. Now, if you take some coal on you, you can actually add it into the brazier here and light that up. Now, when you do this, you actually get a bit of a healing bonus. You see right there, you are warm, so you've got a cold resistance, and that will actually help you to heal a bit faster. So if you get into trouble, you can run back and stand near this to heal up a bit quicker if you need some extra health. So again, before we go in, we should always make sure our hunger bar is full. And let's see, we got this thing right here. So let's see this guy's attacks. Let it attack us so I can show you guys. But first of all, it does that, which will shoot these spikes, which will follow you around. And then it jumps like that for an AoE. So you see there, we took a bit of damage. So we might want to come back here right now. And there you go. We're starting to heal up very quickly. And we can kind of fight him on our own turf now. So once again, we're just going to kind of jump in there and get to attack him as quickly as we can. Obviously, as soon as you are able to use your special ability again, you should. Also, if he's going to jump at you, the best bet is to use your shift thing like this. So as he jumps, we shift like that to get out of the way. Then we can come back in. The shift is really useful for dodging all sorts of attacks. So when he starts to shoot those spikes at you as well, you can kind of use that one. Again, you'll get much better with this as you practice, but this is definitely the safest way to fight these mobs. Now, we have a bit of a puzzle here because we have to get across to the other side. And if we fall down, we fall into all of these nasty things down here. Now, if you'd like to try and complete this challenge yourself and don't want any spoilers, I will put a little chapter down in the video where you can skip onto. But if you want to see how to do it, then I'm about to show you. Okay, so when we step on these things, it's going to shoot arrows across from here. So you just need to run across quickly. Otherwise, the arrows hit you, damaging you, and they shoot you down into the pit. You could also, if you want, just choose to go down here and take these spawners out. It's not too difficult to do. But if you're just trying to do it as fast as possible or whatever, all we do is run like that and then jump across to here using the larger jump that we know. Then we're going to go over to here. We're going to jump again, and do the larger jump just like that, or the double jump, shift jump, however you want to call that. And that's how we get across. So that is the spoiler for that one. You see right here, we've got another brazier. So if we want, we could light this one up. And then that way, if we get into trouble just up here, we've got somewhere we can come back to. Now, when you sort of complete a section and you're going to go into the next bit, it's always a good idea to just double check that hunger and eat if you are not at full hunger. It just makes such a huge difference. That's why I'm sort of going on about it a little bit in this tutorial here, because it is so helpful to know that. Now, when you're fighting multiple mobs, it is important to remember that you will attack in the direction your mouse is looking at, and also that you want to make sure that you're left clicking when the circle appears. Sometimes when fighting multiple mobs, it can be really tempting to spam click a bit, but you do much more damage if you wait and left click when that circle's there, rather than just trying to spam them. Okay, so now we're coming through to this bit, and once again, we could very quickly light this up if we want to. So obviously you need to make sure you bring coal with you if you want to do this, because you won't always find coal in the dungeons. We're getting through to the main section of the dungeon in just a moment, so that is going to be the most difficult bit, and you want to make sure you're fully healed before you go in there. And that difficult section is down here. Now, before you go into here, it's important to note something. If you die when you're in there, your backpack is going to be stuck in there, and you're not going to be able to retrieve it until you're able to complete this dungeon. So once again, we've eaten our food and we've got our warm effect, which is great. So we're now going to head down through these doors, and immediately we're going to start attacking one of these things so that we can start doing some damage to it and taking down the dungeon, obviously. Now, if you start to take damage, you can just kind of run around like this, and if you've got the hunger bar, you won't take too much damage. You'll start to heal back up again, and that way you won't die while you're in here, which is obviously nice. So there we go, we took a lot of damage. We can just run over like this, then we can use our special attack when we've got it, and go after these spawners again as a priority, because obviously they are the thing to take down so that more mobs aren't spawning all the time. And we just kind of repeat that process. Anytime you get into a bit of trouble, that's when you want to make sure that you're kind of getting out of there. And once you take down the spawners, make sure you collect these orbs. You can do that at the end if you wish. And obviously I'm utilizing the shift key here a lot as well, so this is where this really comes into it. And remembering my crit hits. And as soon as I get into a little bit of a difficult situation, I just run around like this until I've got my special ability back again, because that makes a big difference. And just like that, we have completed the first dungeon. So as I say, I don't think it's too difficult. I don't think personally you need any armor or anything like that in order to do this, but it just depends on your level of comfortability with all that sort of stuff. And I'm not sure comfortability is a word, but hey, now it is. Now, the cool thing about this dungeon is we do get a dog out of it. So we can come over here and left click and tame the dog. Now, this dog, if we go ahead and press tab and go to this section right here, he's great and stuff, but he can get annoying at times. So you just double left click his color. Oh, there we go. And he goes away, and then we can double left click again if we want him back. So that's how you kind of get him out of the way when you don't want him. Now make sure you look around the dungeon. You got little things here, notes that you can read. You've got chests here that we can break, and we've got a load of coal back, which is cool. Another barrel over here to pick up. So yeah, just make sure you pick up all this stuff, especially money on the table there. That's great. So we're up to 54 gold now, which is pretty good for this stage of the game. Most importantly though, is this awesome chest that we get over here for completing the dungeon. There we go. There is a ton of gold over here. So we make sure we run over all of that. Don't leave any on the floor. Pick it all up. And we're now up to 84 gold, so even better once again. Now, the next thing I recommend you do is go to your town notice board, and with just these resources here, we can upgrade it to level 2. So we get some interesting things out of that. But one of the coolest things is the fact that we actually get 40 gold coins for doing this as well. So for just those basic resources, we do get a decent amount of coin out of it. With that done, we can start heading out this way, and this is where we're actually going to be able to sell our sapphires. So this is a whole other trading area right here, and there are a whole number of different fishing things that you can buy and sell over here. So this is how you can get into a lot of different fishing things if you want to do that. If we continue on down here though, we have this little boat, and here's Jack the Pirate. So here you can see the sapphires. So we have 4 sapphires on us, and we can sell those for 12 coins. So that's actually pretty decent for this stage of the game. On top of that, if we start talking to Jack, we can actually play some blackjack. So we can go up to here, and let's see, how much do we want to bet? Let's bet like 5 coins, right? So we deal the cards, and let's see, we've got a 12 against his king. I guess we better hit. Oh, okay, I'm going to stay on 17. And he got, yeah, blackjack. So maybe gambling is not the best idea, but if you want to have a bit of fun, it's something you can do. What is a really good idea to do though is go to your workbench and unlock the adventurer's backpack, and it will double the amount of inventory space you have. Now it's going to cost you 50 coins to do so, as well as 20 fibers. We know how to get those, and 3 tanned leather. So the tanned leather, what we need to do is, let's see, I've got some wood on me. I do. So go to the fire. We're going to drag this over here as fuel, and then if we go to the raw section, just over here, we have all of our hides. So let's drag this over and let's right click 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That'll be 3. So each 3 of the the raw hides here, they turn into tan leather. So now we just light that and we wait. And the good thing is we can actually go off and just do something else while we're waiting for this. So go chop down some trees or whatever. And then when we come back, they will be ready for us. So with that done and those resources collected, we can come over here and upgrade our backpack, which is great. And you see that in a minute, we can actually do that again, and then we'll have 200 inventory slots. So that makes quite a big difference. It's also a good idea to upgrade your workbench. This is really something quite simple to do, and it unlocks a ton of stuff from new weapons and the shield, right up to new processing options as well, and also the boat, which is going to be a good way to explore between islands. So it's not too many materials in order to do that, and we can upgrade nice and easily. And you can even do it again. It's not too difficult to have this stuff, and this is going to unlock loads more things, including a scythe blueprint, which is actually really useful for farming. So if you want to craft up any of the nice new items like the weapons and stuff you've unlocked, if you click on the anvil and press tab, then you go to the weapons section right here. All you need to do is drag and drop something over like this. And as long as you've got the materials on you, you can go ahead and hit upgrade, and you'll make yourself, for example, a shield. So there we go, we grab that one there. And also I like to make up the hammer. I'm not as big a fan of the spear. I think the hammer and sword are my favorites, but again, it's all personal preference when it comes to combat. So at this stage, I'd like to show you guys a couple things. First of all, right now I have my sword equipped and I've got my torch equipped. If I press 2 to also equip my shield, then I've now got that equipped too. So the shield allows us to block, but when we press escape and if we go to settings and then over to the controls, if we scroll down to blocking, you'll see that it is currently set to right click. And that's because I changed it. By default, it's actually the Q key. But I found this a little bit more difficult, and I found right click much easier. Now, the reason that this is important is because your starting shield there, if it's equipped, it's not actually going to do anything in terms of like helping you to take less damage when mobs attack you. You need to actually actively block with it in order to block some of the damage. So let's go find a mob and I'll show you that. Okay, so here is a mob right now, and you see there the damage it does to us was -5. If we let it attack again, that was a different one, but yeah, -5 each time, right? Now, if I actually block with the shield, you'll see that that is, wait, if I can get rid of a few of these, hold on, let's just do this, because otherwise it's kind of hard to see. So right now we're on a harvest moon. I'm going to explain those to you in a second, but it just means there's loads more mobs attacking us, which is not super useful for this bit. Okay, so if we right click towards the mob, so again, direction is important of your mouse, you see right there, now we're not taking that damage, right? I mean, we were because he got behind us, but we block again, there you go, we don't take the damage. But if we completely unequip the shield and let him hit us, you see there, -6, -6, -6. So with the shield equipped, when he attacks us, it's -5. So the blocking, it's like a tiny amount that it does naturally, and the rest of it, it's all about like us actually using it, and we need to make sure that we are blocking actively. And for that, I just found that the right click was a lot easier way of doing that. But again, it's a personal preference thing. So if you're getting a bit overrun with mobs during a harvest moon, just make sure you get inside and click your bed and just sleep. And in doing so, the mobs then, there you go, they just get killed for you. So as long as you're somewhere near, then you'll see you're fine. And of course, we get that message up to signify the end of the harvest moon. So next, let's talk about farming. You can see behind me, I've got a little farm started. So if we go to the crafting section here, this one with a well, we've got these wooden frame farms. You want to build those. These here are smaller and more for decoration, but these ones are good for farming. You see I'm also holding a watering can right now, and that watering can can be filled up by running into the water, and you'll see it turns blue like it is down there at the moment, meaning it's filled with water. Incidentally, if you want to make up the watering can, you do so over at the anvil. You just open that up, go to your tools section and drag the blueprint across, and you can also upgrade it in this way as well. So it's important to note that if you want to upgrade anything, this is how you do it. So for example, you might want to upgrade your weapon later on. For that, we do need hardened steel, for example. But yeah, this is how you do upgrades as well as the initial construction of all things. Anyway, going on to farming. So in the resource section under the farming bit, I have all my different seeds here that are on me. So let's grow some rose bushes, shall we? So let's equip something other than the watering can for a second, and then we can just left click on the farm. And with that done, now we can select these rose seeds and we can plant them all by left clicking here. And there we go, they've been filled up there. We can left click once again though and plant some other things. So let's plant those in. We had one of those, and we got these as well. So you can see here you can actually mix crops, and you can have up to 9 crops in any of these farms. Let's go ahead and left click here and plant the rest of these over in here. And then over here, we will plant, I just chopped my bush down, that's not good. We want to plant all of those. I guess we only have one more anyway. Okay, so there we go, there's all of that. So now if we equip our watering can, if we stand in just the right spot and we left click like this, you'll see that we're able to water all of these 4 farms at the same time. So you can water them, and then if we go ahead and left click once again, we'll water them twice, and that uses up the watering can. So now if we try to do it again, let's just like left click here, you'll see that it tells you it's empty. So you run back to the water, and this is the animation of it filling up there. and then you can go and water them once again. So with that done, we're just going to give it some time and keep an eye on those crops, and over time, of course, they will grow. And when they grow and we harvest them, then we can get a seed back each time. So we're going to get at least one seed back. Over time, you will get abilities to get more than one seed back and grow your farms, and obviously other ways of collecting them. But then these things can be sold, and that's a good way of getting some extra money. So we just want this going on passively in the background while we go off and do other things. Just make sure you don't leave your farm for a few days without watering it or tending to it though, otherwise the crops will die. Now at this stage, there's a couple different ways that you can go in terms of spending your money. So if we go back over to here, we can of course buy the armor, and one of these armor pieces is 60, the other one is 45. So that's definitely an option. Or you can come over to the farming vendor and you can buy this thing, and this will take up 40 of your coins. Now what this does do is gives you a 25% chance of getting an extra seed from harvesting. So this would kind of be playing the long game. Obviously you need all this stuff as well as the coins, but then you'll get more seeds, you'll grow more farms, and in that way you will be able to sell more items and make more money. So the choice is yours in that regard as to what you want to do, but I do recommend that you get the better armor before completing the next dungeons. Now the quest that I have right now is just to go and find a town board, so you don't need to have better armor for that, but just before doing the next dungeons. Now if you want to go and find a town, what we need to do is make up a boat. So if you go to the machine section here is our raft, and you can see there we just need 30 wood and 15 reeds, so it's fairly cheap to make. So let's go over to the water and point it heading out to the water just like that, and we're going to go on a little adventure. So if we press M to open the map, it does show you the next town that we're heading for. So it's just up this way. We're going to get on the boat and head to that now. But because we're going to be gone for a while, it's just a good idea to leave the farm, set that up first, and then this can be working in the background. And then by the time we get back, hopefully it'll all be ready to harvest. Now it's a good idea before you head off to go ahead and leave everything in storage that you don't need. That way, if you die, you've got all the stuff that you can come back to. Plus, when you're out and about, you can then pick up a lot of new things rather than your inventory filling up with all the old stuff that you've got. Just make sure you do take enough food with you though, so you've got that for when you come back. So if you walk out to your boat and left click, then you'll get onto it, and you can use WAS to steer it in the same way that you would by running around. Now it can also be a good idea to sleep before you head off, and the reason for that is that way when you get to the new island, it won't be nighttime with more difficult mobs and things like that, and you can explore, a bit more leisurely if you get there on time. So once again, using this trick of using the right click and dragging down to see where you're going can make things a lot easier. So we can see over there, for example, there's a nice island that we could go and explore at some point. For now, though, this is a good point. So there's a barrel in the water up here. So when you see a barrel in the water, all you need to do is just sail over it with your boat, and you'll automatically pick up the items from it. So that's pretty good. We've got 3 bananas right there. That looks like a shark, so we're going to get away from that one. Let's come over here a bit, and we can always get back to land if we need to. Our boat will outrun the shark though. So once again, you can use your mini-map to line up where you're going. So you can see here we need to head this way. So we can just use right click and hold that down to get us pointing the right way, just like that. Then when we come off the map, just get it so it's lined up and we're center with our screen. So we're heading to sort of the top middle of our screen. And now if I look like this, there we go. There's the island that we're heading for. Now for this island, we're probably just going to jump on, do a quick explore, find the board and the dungeon, stuff like that, and then run off again. So what I'm going to do is just leave my boat here. And it will be a little thing on the map there that marks where the boat has been left. Let's just go and grab this rabbit while we're here. There we go. Might as well grab that. So if I look on the map right now, it will show me my boat here. I'll get a bit further away so you guys can see that. But it's nice and easy to find it again at the end. So if I press M, there's my boat. It's nice and easy to find that again. So it is worth mentioning, if you don't want to take the boat with you though, what you can do is press F, left click it and click recycle materials. And then you'll pick up all the materials and take them with you, obviously assuming you have room in your inventory. And then if you're like going from this end of the island, you're exploring right the way up and you get to up here and then want to sail off this way, you can just remake the boat again rather than having to run all the way back to it. So it just depends what you're doing, but sometimes that can be beneficial. So here we are in Tarragon Town, obviously a new town that we've got to, and it wanted us to find the notice board, which is just here. Now you see that we can even upgrade these town boards as well, so other towns that you find can be upgraded and you get rewards and obviously new things unlocked for doing so. Over here we do have some other things we can buy as well, including a better set of armor. So there's a chest plate right there, and also some bracers that we can buy, so a new item there for 60 gold. So that obviously just adds on a bit of extra armor if we buy those things. On top of that, we have other stuff here. So we've got coal and clay, we've got stone, and we've got salvaged metals, so some of the usual suspects. But we do have pears, lavender, and pumpkins as well over here, which we can buy and sell. On top of that, we can actually buy seeds for different things over here, which is pretty cool. Now, some of them can be quite expensive, especially things like olives there, passion fruit, stuff like that. But still, it's new seeds that we can buy and farm, so that's pretty useful. And there is another mine entrance over here as well. So lots of cool things over here. What we're going to do, though, is go and find that dungeon, which is back down this other way. Yeah, I don't think there's anything around here we need. and just activate that to complete the quest and get the XP. If you do see pumpkins out in the wild though, do make sure you harvest them. They're a useful food to have early game, and every now and again you'll get a seed from them. So if we look at our early game foods, let's see over here, the pumpkin, you see that it does double the amount of hunger filled to things like the blueberries. So you will encounter some basic mobs when activating this dungeon. Nothing like too difficult, it should be completely fine. Just a couple of spawners and the basic mobs in this game. But with that all cleared out, we can go ahead and activate this dungeon and get some nice XP for doing so. And we have now an extra skill point which we can spend. So let's see, we've got some different options down here. Double clay mined or double limestone mined. Not sure I need any of these just yet. So I think I'll start working my way down the combat route because this is kind of useful. So I can just pick any of these right now. I'll just pick this one right here. And that unlocks this one for later once we get our next point. So now that we're back, I've noticed that my farm is looking pretty dry. So you want to make sure that you keep on top of that when you're doing your farming. And later on in the game, you're going to be able to automate this. So don't worry, it's not going to be this finicky for the whole game. But it is important to do at this stage of the game. So again, if we stand in the right place there, which I didn't, but you can water all of them from one section. But it's good to do that just to keep the ground nice and fertile and keep the crops growing rather than them drying up and dying, of course. So the next quest, as you can see up there, is to activate all these different keystones. And then we've got this main dungeon. Now, these keystones themselves can be a little bit tricky to activate, and it requires you to have a bit of combat and stuff like that. And they are listed on the map. You open them up, you head to these circles, and you light them up. Now, for this one, I do recommend you buy at least one piece of armor, especially if you're new to the game, from Bridgewater Town over here. So we've got, obviously, the two different ones that are either 45 or 60 to buy. The difference is not really much. Like in terms of the blocking, you see there 1.5 for the chest plate and 1.5 for the helmet. So ideally you'd have both for a damage protection of 3. But if you can only buy one, you should probably just buy the helmet because it's actually cheaper. That being said, if you do want to buy them both, it's only going to cost you 105. We're at 81 already. So it's really not too difficult to go ahead and get the resources to do that. So we're going to go and do that now. So just by running around collecting blueberries and adding to what I've already got, I've got like 60 on me right now. So let's go ahead and put that up to 60. There we go. And we got 24 coins just for that. So we're now at 105 just from collecting blueberries. And that's how easy it is to get enough money together to do this sort of thing. So with a bit of tan leather, which I'm going to go and make right now, that's actually enough to get our beginner armor full set. And that's why I think for the time it takes, it's probably worth doing to help you to stop dying when you do the future dungeons and such. And the good news is we've woke up in the morning and we have here a farm that is ready to harvest. So if we go ahead and just left click on that, we can click harvest, and there we go. We've got 2 blueberries and 1 seed. So we've got basically double the resources and the initial seed back. Now again, later on, once you get more money, you can buy that farming enhancement. And when you do that, then you do have the chance to get the extra seed, and that will just get better and better as you progress through the game. So now we have enough money, we're going to go ahead and buy these 2 pieces of armor, just like that. There we go. And so that's obviously going to be very helpful to us, and we can double left click to equip them and double left click again if you want to take them off. But now we do have that 3 blocking armor, and also you see here we get 5% bonus critical hit damage with each one, so plus 10% critical hit damage, which is really going to be helpful for us to defeat those next dungeons.